Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining our session today. It's wonderful to see all of you. Thank you for taking time out during the show to attend this. We're going to be talking about the future of work. I think we'd all agree that we're in a time of rapid change, probably more so than ever before, right? We've got macroeconomic changes, we've got these massive shifts in talent supply, we've got the proliferation of AI. So now more than ever, right, I think it's important for HR leaders like yourselves to have a very clear roadmap of what's ahead, right? And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be basing it on our World at Work report that GP released last week. It's live on our website. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would strongly suggest that you do. We were in touch with over 6,000 HR leaders and professionals in 6 different geographies. And there's a ton of insight that I think that people will find very valuable as we navigate some of these more turbulent waters ahead of us. So, my name is Aamir Khan with GP. I have the privilege of representing the voice of the customer at GP, and I do that because I get to have so many awesome conversations with the likes of you guys every day. I am joined by the magnificent Sarah White. I think it would be a massive understatement to say that you've had a storied career, but please go ahead and introduce yourself.
This is my 20th HR tech, and I only came to the first one, and I'm like, I'm definitely not going to stay in HR that long.
Can we please get a round of applause for that 20 HR tech? Wow.
So I am the SVP and Head of Innovation at SuccessFactors, part of SAP, and have literally sat in every function. I've been in HR, I have been an analyst on Josh Burson's team for a period, I had my own firm, and have worked over the years with about 250 vendors that are on the floor today on product strategy, go-to-market strategy, and so I fell in love with this industry, and I guess I'm never leaving now. So now I get to do fun stuff like this.
That is awesome. I consider it a privilege to be on the stage with you here. We are going to make this somewhat interactive, so I think I would encourage people to ask questions as we go along, but what you do have in front of you are paddles, okay? So the idea here is that we're going to do some informal polls, get a feel for what you guys are seeing in the market, and then we will follow it up with what our data has found through our World of Work report, okay? Should we take it for a spin? We're going to do a test question or so. Okay, so first question, are we all feeling a little overwhelmed by the amount of AI at this show? Yes, no? Well, mostly yes, some no. Do we need a therapy session on AI? Yes, a lot of yes.
Do we need a therapy session in general?
Just in general, always.
Yeah.
Always need a therapy session. Okay, very good. All right, so with that, we are going to kick off. So it's an interesting time in 2025 just because things are changing so much, right? So the first question for you guys, yes or no, and no judgment, no shaming here, but can your company handle today's macroeconomic shifts?
Do we know what macroeconomic shifts means? Okay.
All right, I feel like that's a bit of a mixed bag. Would you agree?
I agree, and I think for everybody, anybody that's saying yes, our company's 100% prepared,
I don't believe you.
Probably,
you guys are liars.
Probably isn't talking to everybody at the company. I think it's just normal. I think anytime we see this, a lot of the people in this audience has probably gone through major shifts over the last 10, 15, 20 years of their career already. And it's different every single time. And no matter how well we prepare, there's always something that's slightly different this time that kind of changes the dynamic.
Yeah, and talking of different, we're surrounded by a lot of tech at this show. Obviously, we're surrounded by a lot of AI. It's hard to avoid it. So, poll again for the audience here: is your company ready for the rise of AI and the AI workplace? Okay, you, sir, are particularly confident. I like that. That's very, very good. So, let me share with you what we found in our World of Work report, right? So the data shows that the majority of executives, 64%, worry their company can't handle today's geopolitical, economic, and tech disruptions. Organizations today are navigating a perfect storm, tight talent markets, as we discussed, shifts in the economic landscape, and new technologies that are changing by the day. Sarah, thoughts?
Yeah. I think I'm surprised it's only 64%, right? I think, was that what it was, 64?
64%.
From the conversations we're having, this is even if they're slightly ready, there's still a little bit of concern about where this is and just kind of how much, if they're ready today, it might change. I think one of the great examples of how important this is we actually have the Deputy Labor Secretary or Deputy Secretary of the Department of Labor is actually at this show today and looking to see what is happening and really trying to learn and understand and take all of this back. And so, we are thinking of things at a much broader level, and I think everything that we have been worried about as HR leaders for probably the last 5 to 7 years, I think it's kind of bubbling up and everybody else is kind of catching on to what our concerns have been.
I've picked up on many nuggets of wisdom at the show, and I feel ashamed that I can't give the right person the right credit for this, but one of the things I heard was change is not the enemy, it's the strategy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. I think transformation is the new normal. And so if you think transformation is a task to check off, you're really thinking about it wrong. It's changing the mindset of your organization to be constantly ready for change, for transformation, and making everybody ready and feeling comfortable with it. And so it doesn't have to be a scary thing, but if we don't do change management correctly, it is going to be very scary for people across the borders. And so I think the communication and just a very different approach to how we've ever done. There is no done to change. And I think that's very, very different than historically how we have approached any of the broader trends in the space.
Yeah, change is scary.
Yeah.
Right? And I think if you can anticipate it, it certainly takes the edge off. Right?
Absolutely.
Very good. All right. Next audience poll. Okay. So do you believe finding the talent with the right skills is getting harder? Yes or no? Anybody else? Any takers? So we're certainly seeing a lot of that.
How many of you are in recruiting? How many of you are in HR? How many are you in an unrelated to area of recruiting or HR? Then most of you? Okay.
How many of you are here just for the swag?
How many are here for...
That's a truth
for
test.
The noise. Yeah, what was the stat on that one?
So the stat on this one, the data shows a significant talent shortage with 84% of executives struggling to hire in their existing markets. Are you also seeing this out in the market?
I am, and I think it's a really interesting thing because anybody that spends any time on LinkedIn or TikTok is seeing a huge number of people that are applying to 100 jobs, 1,000 jobs, can't find work, all of these type of things. And it's a very different dynamic because I think we're now looking for those perfect candidates. We expect them to already have all of these skills. I'd love to know how many of you have an active approach to upskilling your internal workforce? Yes or I guess, do you have let me rephrase it into Jeopardy. Do you have an active thing? How many of you wish your company did? Or think that they're missing out on really good talent by not having the ability to do that? Perfect. I appreciate the head nods in addition to the paddle.
It's reassuring.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So do you think that you've been in the business for a long time. Why is it so different now to what it was before? Or is it different now to what it was before?
I think it's the scale, right? And so we have, obviously the jobs report has been readjusted over the last 18 months by almost 1 million jobs down over what we thought it was going to be. Unemployment rates are still holding, but it's very particular industries are having a lot harder time and other ones have shortages. There's certain skills. And so where I think historically it was a little bit more level, right? So we all went down together, we all went up together. I think now it is very, very selective and very specific. And for most organizations, they're still very early in their skills journey. And so they're trying to figure out how to navigate this. They've done it, at certain smaller degrees, but they're still trying to figure out how to do this effectively and hire using skills and do the right type of learning and training and promotion across the board from a skills perspective. And I think one of the challenges that I'm hearing from people that we're talking to is that they're afraid they're already behind, so they don't know where to start. Yeah. And if you haven't started, you're not behind. You're quite honestly right where most other people are, and the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time to start is today. And so don't be intimidated by the conversation of skills or AI. You can always start really slow and low and kind of transition, but that's going to be one of the best ways that you can solve this within your own organization.
So then, how do you get ahead of it? So it's one thing to keep up with it, but how do you win in this scenario?
I think you have to know what you actually need. I mean, how many times have we gone out and looked at a job posting for an entry-level person that requires 7 years of experience? I remember laughing at one point. There was a social media manager job posted in 2008 asking for 10 plus years of social media experience. And so sometimes we don't really think through what the actual requirements are and what is actually needed for a job. And what we're trying to do is streamline and like, how do we eliminate a bunch of people out because I'm getting too many people in? And so let's add that college degree. Let's add this certain requirement. Let's add this industry expertise. And I think we're going to have to just really think about how, if we want to get ahead of it, what are the skills that are absolutely necessary, and how do we both train our current workforce for them, but how do we hire people that are able to adopt and adapt to those skills without having to necessarily wait for somebody that is that perfect candidate?
Just so that you guys know, 2 out of the 3 questions I'm throwing at Sarah are completely unscripted. And we did,
I've never heard these. I have no idea what they are.
We did warn you about that. So a question that comes to top of mind for me is, I feel like there's a contradiction in the market. Because on one side, we're hearing candidates say that there aren't enough jobs out there.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we're hearing executives saying that I'm having a very hard time finding candidates for these jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why do you think that is? Is it a fallacy of choice situation?
No, it's a skills gap. Right, and so, you know, a lot of us raised this concern 10, 15 years ago that we were pushing, you know, in a lot of cases, we were pushing kids only to go to college. We weren't doing very training in certain type of trades or other areas. We were having everybody go into IT, everybody go get a programming degree, and then we have a shortage of people in other areas. And so we overemphasized certain areas, and so we end up with a gap in other areas. And yeah, it isn't fake, but it's also like, okay, if I just had to downsize my team to do a replacement, I need one person that can now do 2 or 3 jobs. They need to have way more skills than what we previously had to have. Or there's still sometimes a lot of people that are like, well, it's an employer's market, which means I can be a lot more picky. Right? And so my expectations are unrealistic for what is actually available and for what I should be investing in as an employer. Right? Like, as an employer, I should be investing in my people. I should be investing in their skills. I should be wanting to do this. And sometimes there's not necessarily as much of that willingness because that expectation is we didn't have to do that before, but the skills themselves are changing.
Yeah, and they're changing fast.
Very fast.
Very fast. So with a shortage in the domestic market, you would think that, actually this is an audience question. Okay, so with said shortage, right, you would think that global markets could help, right? In other words, thinking outside of the US for your next hiring need. But global HR isn't easy. So do you think, audience, that expanding your team internationally is too complicated / bloody expensive? Yes or no? That's really interesting to hear because we've been kind of chipping away. I mean, that's what we do, obviously, right? So we've been chipping away at this over the years, but it's always fascinating.
That was a trick question.
That was a trick question. Yeah, it's still interesting for me to see the kind of what feels fuzzy about the global markets, right? Because it is complicated and it can be expensive. So let me share with you some of the research, right? So our research highlights common misconceptions about global hiring, from legal risks to cost. I'd like to talk, Sarah, about some strategies and tech for attracting and retaining talent in a global market and how it might be different to the domestic market.
You know, I think it's scary, right? We have this assumption of, you know, I'm comfortable, I know what these universities do, I know what this major means, I know what this type of company, and so you can't evaluate the talent in the exact same way. And so for a lot of people, that in itself feels very risky. And I think on the other flip side of this is, you know, we are still, for as long as we've been talking about contingent workforce and contingent labor and kind of flex labor, we are still quite uncomfortable with really kind of holding on to it with our own organizations because we still haven't quite figured out where it fits. And so I think some of this is just internal, again, that change management, that transformation and the discussion, and realizing, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have the flexibility of tools and compliance products and these other pieces of the puzzle that really helped us be able to achieve this. Or if we did, they were only available at the very largest size organizations. And it was like, I'm too small, my organization is too small. That's for, only for a certain type of maybe just tech talent or just a certain area. And so I think we carry a lot of assumptions just in general on this topic.
Yeah, I think it touches on the fear of the unknown a little bit as well, as we were touching on before, right? Because it's different. I can say that us as a company, we walk the walk as well as talk the talk. Many of my colleagues here today are international. We've got team members in over 60 countries. And it's really wonderful to see them in person because we've really made the world a lot smaller, right?
Yeah.
Is there any technology that sort of stands out to you, seeing as we're at HR Tech, in terms of solving that global puzzle?
Are you wanting me to do this?
Oh, excellent. I'm glad you asked. So I'm going to take this opportunity to do a shameless plug. I think GP, this is a sweet spot for us, right? Global employment. Some of the products that we offer, an employer of record platform that allows you to hire internationally without having your own employment infrastructure.
Can you explain really clearly what the product category is? Because I think one of the challenges is it's hard to know what to Google. Like, where do I go do research? Explain exactly what is employer of record? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so I'll answer it slightly differently, right? So here's what we see often when folks approach us at shows like this, right? We found this amazing, brilliant candidate in France. Everybody loves them. We're ready to go. And my VP of something or another came to me and said, go ahead and get this person hired. And then that person says, how are you expecting me to do that exactly? We don't have an entity out there. Do they need some kind of employment agreement? What language am I going to put it on? How the heck am I going to run payroll? Yeah. Like, this is very complicated because you can't just hire somebody and you can't put them on as a contractor because that would be highly uncompliant in most cases. So enters GP, right? So rather than going out there and setting up that employment infrastructure for low head count, because that's a lot of work, we have that infrastructure in over 187 countries. So what we technically do is take your candidates, we call them professionals, we put them onto our platform, technically making them our employees, but then we assign them back to our customers. So what does that mean in real life? That means they walk and talk like our customers' employees. They have their badges, their email addresses, their phone numbers, their LinkedIn, their information on their CVs. We just handle sort of the bureaucracy on the back end, right? Shifting the burden of labor law and compliance from their shoulders over to ours. So a very easy way to scale without needing to have that employment infrastructure. The way I like to think about it is where we solve the most amount of headaches for our customers is low headcount across multiple countries, because you could imagine as a HR professional, if you had to learn the labor law and HR compliance requirements of 15 different countries where you only have a handful of people, right? So that's EOR, and you may choose to employ people as a contractor, and that's something that we offer as well. And then, I think in the spirit of AI, the last piece of it is a product that we've launched at the show called GP Gia. And that fits the gap of where you do have your own employment infrastructure, but maybe the knowledge is a little bit hard to attain, right? So,
do I see that was named a top HR product of 2025 by HR Executive?
Funny you should say that. I didn't notice that badge up there. Yes, and another humble brag named at the top right of all of the Nelson Hall reports for being the best EOR in the market. Humble brag, humble brag. So yeah, if you'd like to learn more, please obviously stop by and see us. None of it, of course, is possible without our awesome partners like SAP, and that's what really makes us stand out in the market.
Should we go and ask for questions, or do you have?
I think so. I have questions for days, but I'm very happy to take questions from the audience.
Does anybody have questions on anything?
We can get you the mic.
Hi, I'm Aizada. I'm a CEO and founder of Alma. We are a tech-enabled immigration law firm.
Oh, nice.
And I wanted to ask you, As an innovation officer of essentially the company, how are you looking at all of these AI companies? Because we know that a lot of these AI companies are growing so fast and enterprise has appetite, but are you just testing everything that is out there and thinking what's going to stick? What's your approach there? What's your methodology? Like, how are you looking at all of these products across different business units?
Thank you.
So, I sit more on the corporate strategy product side, and we're very fortunate to have a very large and expansive AI group at SAP that has really heavily focused on it from a compliance and governance side from inception, quite honestly. But I do think it is one of these things, I obviously follow all of the cases that are going on and watching all of this. And I think we have to be really deliberate and ethical and looking at not just the bias or the technical side, but also the human impact of AI and what those different parts of AI are doing, not just for us, but across the workforce and the impact it's having on our employees, our customers, all of those areas. And so I know it's a little bit different than what you were asking, but I think anybody that is looking at AI and bringing AI in, it really is about understanding how do we make sure that it is truly in the best interest of all of our stakeholders, and that the company that we are working with is also going through the proper types of testing. There are some startups that are going above and beyond in these areas, and there are some that are not. And the unfortunate thing is it's really hard sometimes for a company to do. If you are working with a larger organization, a lot of times their partners have gone through quite a bit of vetting in order to become partners and have had a different level of scrutiny and testing.
Does that answer your question?
The best I can, yes.
Any other questions?
Any other questions on anything? Good places to eat in Vegas?
I've got another audience question if you guys are ready
let's do another one then.
to paddle some more. All right, so the elephant in the room, not really the elephant, but the elephant in the room, AI. So can you guys tell me, are you using AI in the workplace today? This should be a resounding yes, I imagine.
Can I dive in a little bit more?
Yeah.
Here, let's dive. Are you using AI during the hiring process? At any stage of the hiring process? Okay. Are you using it at any part of talent management? So learning, performance, goals. Okay. Are you using it related to succession planning, internal mobility, any of those? No? Couple? Okay. What about related to compensation, payroll? Okay. And what about around equity, pay transparency, some of the legal compliance areas? Okay. Where's the most useful place you're using AI right now? Just
You
shout
guys
it
can
out.
shout that out.
I don't have a paddle for that one. What is actually the most useful and having the biggest impact for you?
One more time. Sales? Really? Sales. Okay.
Employee surveys, okay? Are you doing the full suite, like a full survey, or are you doing more like pulse or quick check-in, like an engagement survey? The big long ones? Okay. And so you're using the AI to do the analysis on the back end and to get, yep, and to do the analytics off of it, okay? So they're using it for full employee surveys to do all of the analytics and analysis and surface trends and all of those pieces of it. What else are you using it for that's actually useful? Yeah. Who are you using?
The answer was job architecture.
Don't leave until I talk to you. Yeah, so job architecture and job planning, and we're starting to see this. There's some really interesting things popping up in this area about how they're able to use AI to develop like skills-based job and org modeling. So yeah, it's, I've been looking at all of these. That's why I'm always interested who people are actually using. I think that's great. What else are we using it for? Coaching. Okay. So they're actually using AI as a coaching tool for their sales teams. So as soon as their sales teams get off a call, they're getting immediate real-time feedback and coaching as to what they could improve and what they can do differently. I think AI coaching is a huge area. There's a lot of vendors on the floor today that are really starting to merge with that exact focus. What are you most nervous about AI for? Like, what area is kind of like a completely off limits for you guys at your company? Anyone?
Or have you got to that point yet?
What was it? Compliance?
Compliance.
Interesting.
All right, definitely
Okay.
come see me afterwards.
Yeah.
We can help with that for sure.
Yeah. Okay, what else do
I
we have?
think the real elephant in the room is not AI. I mean, if we were just to call it what it is, right? Would you guys say that there's a fear amongst your team about jobs being replaced by AI? I would say that's probably the
Yeah.
underlying fear, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree. I mean, research year after year after year has this being one of the top concerns, right? At the executive level, within the HR, at the employee level. And a lot of this is like just, again, that misunderstanding and the concern of the unknown, right? And the lack of transparency sometimes as we are rolling out that, it goes back to that change management aspect of bringing AI in. There's a lot of AI that isn't necessarily designed to replace. I think the agent word has become very scary for a lot of people and how people are talking about it. There's a lot of AI that is really just designed to help you do your job better, right? It makes it faster and easier and a little bit simpler. And it isn't even making decisions. It's just surfacing stuff for you to be able to make decisions better.
Yeah, in our data, we've seen a real split
Yeah.
on the executive level. We've got some companies that are really doubling down on AI and it's sort of a gold rush of sorts, and then others are really doubling down on the human capital piece of it
Yeah.
and maybe avoid. I actually saw a bunch of no's in the audience,
Yeah,
some people just
there's a
not
lot of-
using AI.
yeah.
More than perhaps you would expect, right?
No.
No?
No,
Really?
that seems about, I think there is a lot of very deliberate choices being made around AI use cases and being very strategic with the AI use cases they're rolling out, with what people they're partnering with on those AI use cases. And so I don't think it is as everybody's using all of the AI to do everything all the time as much as what we are, especially on the HR side.
Yeah.
Definitely customer success, customer service, development, programming, sales. I think there's marketing. I think there's areas where we do have a little bit quicker adoption. But on the people side overall, I think people are just being a little bit more cautious.
Yeah, as they should be.
We have a different
but-
responsibility with the people data. And so you want to make sure who you partner with is also respecting that at the same level.
Is SAP using AI tools today that you think are augmenting the workforce?
Yeah, and we're also, I spend a lot of time thinking about ethical AI and where it does make sense and where, we have all different types. We have, like generative AI, you have agentic AI, you have embedded AI, you have all of these different things. And I think sometimes we, not just SAP, I think just we in general, like overemphasize the type of what it is and like over explain what these things are, which only makes it a little bit more confusing but we're seeing some really great success even in highly regulated industries, global organizations with our customers that are rolling out different parts of it, but we are seeing them like really coming at it very strategic and deliberate and what their goals are.
Yeah, we took an approach at GP where we've been working on this AI tool, but the way we've sort of tested it is we're using it internally.
Yeah.
So I think if it works for us internally, then we can hold our head up high and say that it worked, that we can go to market with it. But what's worked really well on our side is things that used to take forever to do we have databases and databases of information, having done this for so long.
Yeah.
Now you can just go in a generative and an AI prompt
Yes.
and just type your question in and get an answer really quickly and then rely upon it, right?
Yeah.
So we've certainly seen a massive amount of gains in efficiency just using our own tools.
Yep.
Are you seeing similar kind of?
Yeah, and I actually think, some of us have been working on AI behind the scenes for 10 years. And so ChatGPT coming out really leveled the playing field of understanding for a lot of people what AI is and could be, and just giving it a very tactical thing versus it making it very theoretical. And granted, that's just one type and it's one company, and there's 40, 60, 80 different LLMs doing very similar type of things. But I think it just made it more tangible, and gave a little bit different comfort level kind of across the board for everything.
Okay. Should we dare to leave the AI topic for like
Yes.
5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
If you guys can handle it. Okay. What about, audience poll, right? Age-old question, is cash still king?
In
And
what context?
And what I mean by that is pay still the most important thing for your teammates?
Most
like
important?
Well, yeah. Is
Can
a
I
king?
do?
Is a king? Yes, no, yes, no?
Maybe it's the prince?
Definitely a mixed bag here, right? So what about flexibility on where people can work, and are those people willing to relocate? Oh, that's a lot of yeses. That's maybe more yeses than I. So you guys actually seeing that, like your employees asking more to be able to be flexible on where they're based out of? Quick audience poll for me, how many of you guys are remote, fully remote? That's interesting. So I mean, that would feel like one of the perks, right, of the job, if you are working for a remote company, that you'd be able to work from anywhere. All right.
Mostly Delta Seat 3A.
It's like, Does C3, yeah, exactly.
Or Sky Club somewhere.
So it's probably no surprise, but a guaranteed annual pay, here's what we found, right? So an annual pay raise is still the top stay factor for employees,
Yeah.
right? More than what I would have expected. But a lot of them are willing to change up where they live, and where they live. Nearly 2/3, 62% of employees globally are willing to move to a different country for their career.
I mean, I'd move to Tuscany.
Did you really?
Yeah, like put me in like a little villa, a little castle villa with like olive groves around it.
Maybe
Somebody comes over and like, somebody's Nona comes over and like makes me hand-rolled pasta every day.
Yeah, and you just drink
Right.
wine all day. Why
Yeah.
not? I love it. Maybe an EOR could help with that situation.
Did we clarify at that level?
I think we should have. So, question for you, Sarah, then, right? What are the biggest opportunities and challenges this presents for organizations, and how can they leverage global mobility to their strategic advantage?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think one of the things that came out of the pandemic is people really decided they wanted to live in different type of places. Some people decided they really loved and wanted to move to cities. Others wanted to be closer to family members. Others wanted to have a totally different way of life, like huge expat populations moving all over the world, right? And so organizations 10 years ago, I don't think would have ever thought about this from a strategic planning perspective, the level of global mobility that a lot of people were going to have. And I think as we look at Gen Z specifically and look at young millennials, we're seeing this very early on where they're wanting to like move and raise families elsewhere. And so it is a really different thing. So we have so many people that are wanting to come into the US. We have an equal number of people that are trying to like wanting to go and live just a very different type of lifestyle and are looking for a company that's going to give them that flexibility. I don't think we could have, with all the research over the years, ever predicted this kind of like mobile lifestyle, or the interest in whether people actually do it, but just like this interest and desire of maybe even not living somewhere permanently, but being able to work from Colombia for 8 weeks, and then I want to go work in Portugal for 12 weeks, and I want to go work in Singapore for 4 weeks, and like go down to Sydney and surf for another 6 weeks. And so we're just seeing a very genuine interest in becoming a global citizen at a level we just have, again, could not have predicted.
Yeah, I mean, for us, certainly we saw that unfold in real time during COVID.
Yeah.
And, one of the other things we saw quite a lot of were people returning back to their home countries
Yeah.
that sometimes it wasn't a possibility before because
Yeah.
the opportunities are kind of concentrated around key geographical areas, right?
Can I ask you a question? How many of you moved more than 100 miles at some point between 2020 and 2023? How many of you moved more than 1,000? Right? There's a lot of us that made drastic life changes over COVID. Because they're like, well, I guess I want to live by a beach, or I want to live in the mountains, or I want to be closer to a lake, or I want to be a lot further than my family than I thought I did. There was a lot of just movement and mobility. And, when I look at my friend group, we had, probably 20 of us were living between Milwaukee and Chicago. None of us are there anymore.
Wow.
We don't have anybody there. Everybody has moved all over the country, and we're like, there's FaceTime, right? We'll just fly and all go together to different people's houses, and now we get to go to like the Carolinas. We get to come out to Boise. We're going down to St. George, Utah. We're going to Hawaii. Like you just get Portugal, right? Like you get to go kind of wherever, and you just create community in a little bit different way.
So I think the takeaway here is that while cash compensation is extremely important, flexibility is playing a bigger and bigger role in the everyday reality of employees.
I think there's a minimum expectation for cash compensation, right? Like
Yeah.
we shouldn't expect, again, some of this just comes down to ethical business leadership. We shouldn't expect our employees to be making under market because we're giving them flexibility.
Right.
Right? Like a job has X number of value for me. If you move from one city to the next, unless you're like in a very high tax area, right? Like, is it really that big of a difference in some of these type of things? It's hard to say that it isn't king because there is this like minimum level of expectation to meet the demands of everything else that is happening economically. And I have a kid in college, and like a studio apartment in Boise is $1,600 a month, right? Like pre-COVID, it was $400.
Oh, wow.
And so, you have these like very random things, like stuff's just way more expensive, and we don't always think around that. And so people aren't wanting to necessarily make like above and beyond or any of these, but they have to be able to make cost of living in whatever global market they are in.
Yeah, that's a fair baseline.
Yeah.
All right, back to the polls. So let's talk about hustle culture. So audience, this is another honesty question, right? Do you guys feel that you have a healthy, and your teams have a healthy work-life balance?
Do you feel you have always had a healthy work-life balance? I think this is a big one, right? Like, of you that are saying we have a great work-life balance now, and then saying like, yeah, I did not always have that. I mean, I think the term hustle culture is one of the worst things that has ever happened in the workforce ever. And I'm like, I sold my company. I've had 2 exits, and I've been part of 16 more, right? And so like, I was a hustle culture person for like a week. And I was like, yeah, I don't care this much, right? This is too much, right? You don't have time to do the stuff that actually matters, whether it's your family, your health, something is always going to fall through. And I think half the hustle culture bros that are pitching this on LinkedIn are trying to also sell some like training program, right? Like, like, let me teach you how to do this for $42 a month, and like, you too can be like me, like cold plunge. Oh, thank you. Right? Like,
So following on from that, do your teams stay?
wait, hold on. Does anybody love the hustle culture? Right? Is
all,
anybody
all
like
all the CEOs
pro
say
this?
yes? Yeah.
No.
So following on from that, do your teams stay connected after hours? And I don't mean like for good times, but staying connected in terms of work after hours. Yes.
I think there's a balance, right? Like we have a global workforce, right? We have 100,000 plus employees all over the world. And so there's times where I'll get a text message or I'll get a Teams chat or whatever, and I'm like watching some reality TV show, and so I'm going to just respond, right? Like I think the difference is if there's an expectation for it versus you know what, I'm out, this text came through, or I just had a thought about that meeting we had earlier today and I could send that over, versus this 24/7 always on, you can't take a vacation, you can't ever turn off the computer, you can't do any of these things. And I think that what is happening right now is we're losing a lot of this nuance from a leadership perspective of, like it's all bad or it's all good.
Yeah.
Like all after hours chat is bad. All signing off for a full week is good. None of this is true, right? Like it's neither true.
This stat from our World at Work report I found really interesting. So 38% of employees choose to stay connected after work, despite company policies encouraging a healthy work-life balance, right? So some level of contradiction there.
What if they're just sharing memes, right? What if they're just sharing connections and like, hey, I really like my team, and we just had a really stressful day. Let's just send like a flurry of messages of us being stressed via meme for the next 9 hours, right? And so I have seen some very random things. So, right, again, this comes back to a choice, and I think this is like, despite a policy and actuality are not always the same. And so like, there's a lot of companies that have policies, but then they have a policy, right? And it's like, you don't want to have to policy, right?
An unwritten policy.
Yeah. And so, but if my team, like, the team I had before we sold, like, we talked all the time on weekends and all the time because we genuinely liked each other. Like, we had people that vacationed together and traveled together, and would work get brought up? Yes, but that's not why they were doing it. So people left the organization and they're still vacationing together and hanging out. They created actual genuine friendships. And so
So do you think that's the key? Because one of the questions I had here were, how can, as HR leaders, can you encourage a healthy work-life balance without sacrificing productivity? So is the answer to that to have human connection?
I think it's that, but I think that we think more work means more productivity. And, I've had the privilege of working with, like I mentioned, about 400 different software vendors, about 200 that are on the floor today, 250 that are on the floor today. The companies that gave their employees the time to have thinking time and to have actual the 20% rule that Google has, right? Like where they actually have time to think through and not be constantly like monitored, but like, let me step away and actually process this, actually end up being way more productive in the long run and way more strategic. They're typically selling for much higher multiples. They're winning better deals because their people also are not coming across as stressed when they met with us as analysts, when they meet with me now doing like corp dev or M&A, when they're meeting with customers and they're trying to sell to, and customers are like, hey, have you ever talked to this company? Like their product seems good, but everybody seems so stressed, right? Like it changes the dynamic. And I think we look at productivity sometimes at a leadership, especially in early stage companies, and when numbers aren't good, right? So we start looking at productivity along the lines of metrics. And not all productivity is metrics. Sometimes it's outcomes. And sometimes outcomes have a time period that they're going to take before they can actually be realized, right? Like, so if we make changes and we do stuff, that doesn't mean everything is going to change and our numbers are going to be totally different 30 days from now. Sometimes what we are doing is implementing change to impact us 6 months or 12 months from now that are actually going to set us up for massive growth and just like scaling over the next 3 years, but we get really caught up in very short-sighted thoughts about what is productive.
I think my next question for you was going to be about, we've talked about a lot of things and what are your key takeaways, but that for me is an excellent takeaway. Outcomes over KPIs sometimes make more sense.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
And timing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have a saying that half the people absolutely hate, but it's slow down to speed up. And when I'm coming in, you know, I've done turnaround work for a lot of companies, worked with a lot of startups, and sometimes when we come in, the best advice I can give is to actually like pause and slow down for 6 months so we can get some of the fundamentals right. And I think as we are looking at our AI strategy, as we are looking at our people strategy, as we are looking at our globalization strategy, our sales strategy, our go-to-market strategy, our M&A strategy, any of these things, a lot of times that we actually have to do in our own life, right? We're looking at our budget, our finances, our relationships, our health. Sometimes it isn't about like, how do we get to A to Z the fastest? Sometimes it's how do we just get to C, right? Like I just need to do A to C, because if I miss some of those foundational fundamentals, I'm never going to actually have long-term success.
Amen to that. Excellent. With that, I want to give a very warm thank you to Sarah White.
Thank you so much for having me.
All of you.
Thanks for joining us, you guys.
Yes, thanks for making it interactive. Please find us if you have any other questions or if we can provide anything after the fact.
And I'm doing an Ask the Expert session, which last year meant we were all standing in like a pin in the room. There's 4 of us in a room and nobody came to talk to us for the full hour. So if you do have questions, feel free to come over. We can chat about everything and anything over there that doesn't have to be related to this. And I think that is at some point in like a half hour or so.
So direct free therapy.
Yes. Yeah, free therapy. Come welcome.
Thank you, everyone.